At 18 years old, most college students are figuring out which classes to skip on Fridays. But Alex Smereczniak was busy negotiating a buyout of a student-run laundry business. With just $4,000 to his name and a scrappy earn-out plan, he didn't just keep the business afloat, he scaled it from $30,000 to $300,000 in revenue in under a year. His secret? A booth at student orientation that made parents think that the service was part of the university. That single move revealed a deeper truth. Entrepreneurship isn't about having the most resources, it's about having the angle no one else does. Fast forward today, and Alex is tackling something even bigger, the dark underbelly of franchising, when brokers siphon tens of thousands from entrepreneurs trying to buy into the American dream. This is your host, Ryan Atkinson, and you're listening to the Upflip Podcast, where we uncover the secrets of building and running successful businesses. I am so excited to welcome Alex to the podcast today. He is the CEO of Franzy, and we're going to talk about everything from getting started, franchising, and what they are tackling over there. So, Alex, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Excited to dig in, excited to talk about entrepreneurship, franchising, and everything in between.
It's going to be so good. But let's rewind back the clock to Alex in college. You already had the luscious hair right now. I can't imagine what it was when you're 18. But most kids, like I said, they go to college to get a job. You did something completely different. You bought a business. I mean, talk to us. Is this something that you had on your, I'm 18 years old, I'm going to go buy a business? Or where did this spirit come from?
No, not at all. I honestly, at that age, was torn between going pre-med or doing finance. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I think like most 17, 18-year-olds. But my dad, I grew up watching him do sales. And I remember he would work his butt off fall through spring. And then in the summer would golf 5 times a week. And I was like, how are you doing this? And he always taught me, he's like, there's 3 kinds of careers you can have. You can either work for somebody else, you can work for yourself, which is what he was doing, 100% commission, sales, et cetera. Or you can have people working for you. And he's like, you want to be in one of the latter 2 buckets. You either want to work for yourself or have people working for you. So that was just always in my head. And when I got to Wake Forest, where I went undergrad, I worked for the student-run laundry, and dry cleaning pickup and delivery business. And those guys were seniors. And I was like, I want to buy this thing from you guys. I want to learn how to run a business. Let's do it. And I had, 3 or 4 grants, to my name. They were selling it for 30. And so I had to get clever and figure out bringing on other partners, figuring out what a discounted cash flow analysis was, what an earnout was. I knew none of these things. I just set out and found people that did. And I have the humility to go ask for help, and, I know what I don't know. And so between the professors that helped me, other mentors, we ended up buying the business at the end of my freshman year and had a blast running it throughout our college career, learned a ton, made some good money along the way. And that was the entry point into full-blown entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I mean, at 18 years old, to one, start a company, but I feel like to even buy a company, like you have to get really creative, and like that is just like a testament to that pre-med and finance mind there. Talk to us more about like this laundry business though, and specifically talk to us about the orientation booth, because that was a really big driver for us to get to $300,000 in revenue in under a year. So talk to us more about that, just out of curiosity. People love these marketing stories, so yeah, please share.
Yeah, absolutely. So the guys that we bought it from, it started out as a classroom project. The professor gave every group of students, I think it was like $200 over the course of a semester, to concept a business, ideate, take it to market, et cetera. The first group came up and they were like, we sold hot dogs on the quad, and they did $200 in revenue, and everyone clapped. The second group came up, it was, we sold Greek life, sorority t-shirts, et cetera. They did $600, and everyone was, oh, great, good job. The third group was like, we did laundry in the basement, and it's because it's free. It's, quote unquote, it's free. It's included in room and board. And they did like 6,000 in revenue. And everyone was like, holy shit, like they should keep doing this and expand it to other colleges, grow it, at the university. And so when we bought it from them, they had a decent sized business, but they weren't super plugged into the university. So we immediately went to Wake and said, hey, this should be a checkbox option for incoming freshmen and their parents. It's a huge differentiator. Plus, you can also use us as like poster children and be like, look what our students are doing. They're entrepreneurial. And you should give us a booth at orientation so we can get in front of these, individuals and these families. And so they gave us a booth, and they did more than we expected. We thought they'd put us in the corner somewhere. For some reason, I don't know if it was an accident or by chance, but this is our stroke of luck during our entrepreneurial journey. And it was, get your meal plan, get your parking pass, get your room key, and then like our booth. And it's like the like key things you have to do. And so I think parents came through like, oh, we just like have to sign up for this. And their wallets are so open at that point because they're paying for food and parking and books and all this stuff that we just felt like another extension we would explain to people, hey, there's washers and dryers in the basement. This is so, little Timmy or Susan, can matriculate into college without the stress. But that single-handedly basically 10x the business from where it was when we bought it, purely because of that partnership.
That's a great story there. And listeners, do stay tuned because we are going to talk about franchising here shortly. But an important part of your story, Alex, is you landed a job, a prestigious job at EY after school. So you do this laundry business in college, you go to EY, but you left after just 18 months. Talk to us. I mean, that's a year and a half. What made you want to leave after relatively short time period?
I was hooked, and I think anyone that gets into entrepreneurship or business ownership can relate to this. Like, it's like a drug. Like, it's super fulfilling, it's energizing, it's challenging. It's like all these things that you would want out of life wrapped into one thing, and that the sense of purpose and fulfillment that you have along the way, as stressful as it can be, there's nothing else like it. And so getting a little taste of that in college on a smaller scale was just like, "Oh my gosh, there's a whole other world out there that I didn't know existed." Because I think so many of us are conditioned to get good grades in high school so that you get into a good school or go to college, get good grades there so you get your Fortune 500 or corporate job. And it's like there's so many other paths. You can go into music, you can be an entrepreneur in so many different arenas and categories, and there's just another way. And so I was hooked at that point. The big thing though that caused me to leave EY, I think earlier than I anticipated, and I went there partially because I felt like I kind of owed it to my parents and society of like, this is what I'm supposed to go do. And it would be good to get some corporate experience and learn some of those things. But the thing that really flipped me to leave earlier was I've always been like a systems thinker and like I know how to break down the rules of the game and engagement. So in college, I knew how do I do the least amount of work, but to get the best grades possible? Because anything beyond that, there's no point, right? Like, why would I work any harder if I don't have to? And so I go to EY and they're like, here's your five, star rubric. And they have 5-star ratings, 4, 3, 2, and 1. 3 was like, you're doing what we wanted you to do. It's actually pretty good. 3 is still good. If you're at a 3, they're like, yep, perfect. You're going to get a raise still, et cetera. 4 was like top 10 or top 15%, and a 5 was like the top 3%. It was like, holy crap, you're operating at 3, leagues above your level, your top shelf. So I like look at the rubric and I'm like, all right, how do I get a 5 with doing the least amount of work possible?
I love
And it
that.
was like, my roommate at the time, so I had bought a condo with the money I made from the college laundry business. So I had roommates who right out of college, one of them worked at EY with me. And I remember at our first review, so we're 1 year in, I had played the game. I had figured out I need to be involved in these extracurricular things, help with campus recruiting, make sure you're buddy with some partners and you have like a mentorship track. And then you're also doing a good job on your core engagements and consulting projects that you're on. But my utilization, like in consulting utilization is like how many hours basically a week are you working? And mine was like right at, I don't know, like 41 hours a week. Like I was like right at the bare minimum. And I did the extracurricular stuff. So I come around for the 1 year review and I got a 5. I got the like top 3%. And I'm like, holy crap, I did it with like 41 hours, which is crazy. And my roommate, who I think worked much harder than I did, I think is smarter than I am, did better in college than I did. He was working like 70 to 80 hours a week utilization and he got a 3. And I remember seeing that and experiencing that and being like, this whole like setup doesn't work for me. Like I don't mind working, but I don't like a system where, this person worked harder than I did, was smarter than I did, but he got almost penalized or didn't get rewarded as much as I did just because I played the game. And I was like, I don't want this to be about playing the game. I want my reward to be directly correlated to the work I put in. And I think the only places in the world you can do that are business ownership, entrepreneurship, or some sort of sales role.
Most people spend months, sometimes years, just thinking about starting a business. But what if you could do it in just 10 days? That's exactly what the 10-day business launch plan is designed for. It's a step-by-step roadmap that takes you from idea to real operational business in just 10 days. Click the link in the description below and get ready with your business. I want to ask, because pre-med, finance, you're one of those tracks. You go to UI, you get the 5-star rating. I mean, your parents had to have been super happy with you, but after 18 months, I mean, what were they saying when you're like, hey, parents, I'm going to go leave and go do my own thing with like business, like ownership?
At that point in my life, it was probably one of the hardest, conversations I had to have. They were proud of what I did in college and the laundry thing, but I think they thought it was like, oh, that's like a cute resume builder. And, I'm sure that was like a fun little thing you did, and then we're on a family trip. And I remember we had been passively working on 2U Laundry, the kind of next iteration of the laundry business. And I had known at that point, I already made up my mind. I was like, I'm quitting my job and I'm going to go do this. But I hadn't told them yet. I'd had my partner, my co-founder, move down to Charlotte. Like we were working on it already. And I still kept my UI job kind of like to pay the bills. And like I was doing both. I had my feet in both. And I remember telling them on this family trip, like, hey, I'm probably gonna quit my job at EY and go do this full time. And I'm not gonna pay myself anything. It's gonna be scary and a crazy roller coaster. I don't know. I think part of me was expecting for them to be like, "Oh yeah, you got to do it. Now's the best time in your life. You have no kids or other like major responsibilities. Go for it." Instead, I was like, "Are you sure you should do that? We don't know. That feels risky. You know, you got this 4-year degree. You know, EY is a good brand company to work for. Why don't you wait until you have 100 customers?" And I was like, pretty disappointed. I'm 22 or 23 at the time. And I was just hoping for them to immediately, which I get it in hindsight. Like I have my first kid now. Like I couldn't imagine being like, yeah, go do this super risky, crazy thing after you have a good thing going right now. So I get it. Like they love me, they care about me, and they were looking out for me. But in the moment, I felt like, oh, come on, mom and dad, why don't you support my dreams? And I remember telling them though, even at that time, having the wherewithal when they said, why don't you wait till you have 100 customers? I said, because once I get to 100, the next thing is going to be, well, why don't you wait till you have 500? Why don't you wait till this happens? And that's what people get into, whether they're 20 or they're 30 or 40 or 50. There's always these mental excuses of, well, I'll just do it when this happens. And the truth is, there is never a good time to start a business. You know, the best time to do it was a year ago. The next best time is today. I knew that I felt like we just have to get started. And the more we start working on it, the more iterations, the more discipline builds, more consistency builds, and you just got to get after it. And so I told them, sorry, I appreciate you guys and everything you've done, but I got to go do this.
You went and did it, and we're going to talk about it here in a moment. I want to add my 2 cents there. I know when I was starting my own company and like I was like, okay, like I'm getting ready to take the leap, but my parents are both like, they're both entrepreneurs, but at the heart they're so risk adverse. They're like, they don't want their 24-year-old boy to go like start his own company, like stay in the corporate world. One thing that really helped me, and I'd advise other entrepreneurs listening, is like make a checklist of like, okay, this variable needs to be met before I quit my job. This is the next one. Once these variables are met, like that's when I'm skin in the game and that's where I'm going both. That was really helpful for me. But I want to stay focused on you, Alex, here, and then talk about franchising. Give us the spark notes, a little bit more about to you franchising, and give us the spark notes of it, because I really want to dive into like the industry's flaws of franchising and how you guys are solving that. So give us the spark notes of like how you franchise it.
Yep, absolutely. So we got back into the laundry game because we saw these Uber for X businesses pop up. So Wag, Rover, Instacart, Shipped, and we thought someone's going to do this for laundry and dry cleaning. So we launched 2U in January of 2016 under that hypothesis, Uber for laundry and dry cleaning. Fast forward 8 or 9 years, we had raised 33 million in venture capital over that period. We grew to 15 million plus in annual revenue. We started vertically integrating and building physical laundromats through a partnership with Electrolux out of need for better unit economics, but also quality control over the product. And that's where we got into franchising, was we realized, hey, this model is the right one, but laundromats aren't cheap. They're $1 million plus to build with all the equipment. And we needed to build hundreds of them because we had, national brand ambition. And so we thought this is going to take 30 years, or we have to raise like $100 million in debt or equity. And that feels impossible or hard, or also a very long thing to do. So we started franchising the brick and mortar part of that business in 2021 through a subsidiary called Laundrolab. And think of it as like an elevated laundromat franchise that we then layered pickup and delivery volume on top of. So the analogy I use is like, think of a McDonald's or any quick service restaurant franchise. They didn't have delivery because it wasn't their core business. But soon as Postmates or DoorDash came around, boom, it's 30% of most of those retail or those quick service restaurant franchises. That's 30% of their revenue now. We just happen to own both. We own the delivery mechanism plus the retail component. So that's the quick spark notes on the laundry piece. Through Laundrolab and franchising, we got a crash course on what an FDD, a franchise disclosure document, is, and how to position the item 19 and item 7 and train your franchises and sell your concept to, high net worth individuals, prospective franchisees. And that's where the light bulb went off again of like, this is very old school, very like broker driven. There's not a lot of regulation. There's not a lot of alignment. And there's got to be a better way for people to discover the right fit brand for them, to get financing, to find the right franchise CPA. And then for those that own existing businesses, for them to sell them back and to have liquidity. There just wasn't a solution that captured this like marketplace for buying and selling franchise businesses. So that's what we're building at Franzy.
Yeah, I absolutely love that concept. And I mean, listeners, I mean, you guys are loyal Upflip listeners. So you know we have a lot of franchises on the podcast, which is great. But of course, there are the dark stories to it. We are gonna hit on Franzy and the marketplace that you are building, just to enlighten listeners, of course, there. But for an actual tip for someone that's listening that is considering franchising, what's an obstacle or challenge they should always a beginner franchisor typically overlooks? I know that's a huge question there, but just kind of get the ball rolling on that then.
Yeah, the first one's kinda like a more meta answer. It's like just getting over yourself and getting out of your own way, like creating all these fears of like, "Oh, I can't do it," or "It's too hard," or "I have kids," or whatever it is. It's like it's this idea of just getting started again. The more practical, helpful answer is I think people don't realize there's 4,000 franchise brands out there, and so any broker you go work with or Google search you do probably isn't gonna capture the universe of brands, and so my advice is to do your diligence, have a healthy dose of skepticism. It's like buying a house. You got to make sure you have your criteria of what your risk tolerance is, what your financial capability is. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Do something that your operational experience, will benefit. If you're naturally good at sales, find a business that will do well with you in the sales seat. And then lastly, what are your goals and interests? And everyone's got a different answer. It's not just, "Oh, show me the most profitable one that I'll make the most money on." That's actually not, I don't think, the right way to approach it, because money is one thing, but happiness and being fulfilled and excited about the work you're doing is that's to me real wealth, especially if you're gonna work on a business for 5 to 10 years.
What then is the right way to approach it? Is it thinking about happiness, lifestyle? Because I was talking to a friend recently and he's just getting started with a web agency and he's like, Ryan, do you work weekends? Do you work 80 hours a week? And I was like, honestly, not really. I'm not building a company to make my own jail cell, my own prison. I wanted that to go work at EY. I'm just kidding. Totally kidding there. So what should people be considering when they're considering franchising something?
My big philosophy on life is happiness is the North Star metric. And I love, like, our forefathers wrote it the right way. It's like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, not like given happiness. And so I start there with everyone is what makes you as a unique individual happy. Some people are money motivated. It's like, I just want to get rich. It's the money, 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 money. And that's okay. I prod a little bit there. I say, like, well, what's the underlying reason underneath money? Is it freedom? Is it flexibility to spend more time with your kids or with friends? Do you want to leave a legacy? Is it just you want to get joy out of your work and it to feel challenging and stimulating and fulfilling? And so I always start there as like, what is your, why and what makes you happy? Because some people come to us and they're like, I want to buy a franchise that I can do it with, work on with my kids. Well, there's a franchise where you're like, this is morbid, but it's called Bio One. You're cleaning up crime scenes. Like you're not going to do that with your kid if your goal is like, but there's a milkshake factory concept as well. Like that would be a fun family business to run, but it makes good money, but there's others that will make more money. So if your goal is legacy, you should be thinking about that. If your goal is passive, semi-absentee, you should be looking at a different cohort of brands. If it's purely financial, maybe you have a background in restaurant and that's what you know. Like it really depends on the individual, but I start with what's your why and what's going to actually make you happy.
A question that I'll always love to ask people that are in the franchising space: why franchise over start something brand new? Why do franchising over starting my own milkshake stand or my own crime scene cleanup business?
Yeah, so there's all sorts of data that backs this up, but 85% of franchise businesses are still around succeeding 5 years into the journey, which is that's hard. 5 years in is a long time and a lot has to go right to even get to that point. So 85% of franchise businesses make it that far. On the flip side, 50% of independent businesses fail at the same time zone. So it's like you're almost doubling your chance of success by being in a franchise system. And there's a number of reasons for that. There's a proven playbook. There's people before you, the corporate, franchisor that started and had several coffee shops open or gyms or whatever it was. So they've already tested it in the market. They've built playbooks. They have training. They've got marketing. They've even things that are small, like the logo design and the website, like all these things that just add up and eat away at you as a solo entrepreneur or building a concept from scratch that you don't have to do in a franchise system. It's all there for you. So instead of starting on square one, you're on square 4 or 5 already. And when things do get tough, you have this like sounding board of people to go after, a group of peers, et cetera. So that to me is the main difference in value add.
I mean, starting on, the fifth square or whatnot, everything's all built out for you. Obviously, that is super compelling, but Obviously, the question people are going to ask the listeners, I know they'll ask the listeners, I'm thinking of you. Well, how much does it cost and how the heck do I finance this? That is, of course, the question. So you can kind of give us some like broad level overview of like how much does it cost? Obviously, it depends on the franchise location, probably, but give us that and like some financing options as well for people.
Yeah, so I think a big misnomer is when you say franchising, people are like, "Oh, McDonald's, Subway," and then the next thing is like, "I could never do that because it's already sold out or it's a $3 million restaurant." Like, forget it, not for me. What people don't realize is there's franchises that range from 10 grand to get into, like a concept called Card My Yard, where you put like "Happy Birthday Ryan" signs in your yard and it kicks off, 20, 30 grand in revenue. It's a supplemental side hustle kind of income, all the way up to $5 million concepts where you're building a swim school and you've got 8 pools and it's a much more expensive build out. So my thing is there really is a franchise concept for everyone if you want to go do this. If your dream is to be a business owner or an entrepreneur, but you don't know where to start, franchising likely has something for you. Again, there's 4,000 brands ranging from 10K to 5 million. And so the cost really does vary, but the average I'd say is like 250 grand to half a million. And the great thing about the United States is it's one of the best places in the world to start a business, to be entrepreneurial. We have this beautiful thing called the SBA, and the SBA will loan money for first-time business owners or experienced business owners that are incredibly wealthy. It doesn't matter what level of income for the most part. You can go borrow up to 80% of the franchise cost, up to a certain amount to invest in any number of these businesses. And that's true for non-franchise businesses as well. The other thing that people don't realize is out there is there's a program called the Rob's Rollover, and it's where you can actually use retirement assets tax-free, no penalty to invest in your own business. Because the government figures, hey, if we are going to allow you to have retirement assets tax advantages for corporations and stocks, why wouldn't we let you invest in yourself? So Rob's Rollover is another program people can access to finance and fund their own business. So my point with all this is if there's a will and a desire to do this, there's a way for sure, whether it's the right brand, coming up with financing, getting coaching, there's brokers, there's our platform, there's other people, other business owners out there that will help you and give you advice and guidance. You just have to want it bad enough and have the initiative to go and do it.
I love it. One more question before we get into your platform, because I'm really excited to like peel this back to like the resources you are giving to the listeners. Who is franchising for? Is it for that 24-year-old hustler? Is it for the 30-year-old that wants side income? The 45-year-old successful businessman? In your eyes, like who is franchising best for then?
Yep, I'll give you 3 kind of broad, like, ideal personas, and then there's kind of, like, some subcategories, but the first one is your corporate warrior. They've been in the 9 to 5 their whole life. They're maybe in their late 30s to mid-50s. They're sick of working for the man, and they've got enough money saved up now where they can, like, go take that risk, go bet on themselves, essentially, but they just don't know where to start. They don't have some original tech idea. They're not gonna go raise a bunch of venture capital. They don't wanna start from scratch. Franchising is the perfect fit. The second group is your like side hustle, folks that you mentioned. Those could be like your early 20s to, even 50s again, where they're invested in short-term rentals, they invested in crypto and meme stocks. They were doing drop shipping when that was cool. They're looking for this as like another revenue stream and another way to diversify, their income. The last group is your existing sophisticated business owner or entrepreneur type. They already own a car wash or a donut shop, and they're just looking for the next concept to invest in. They'll look at franchising as hey, I've got 3 chicken concepts. I want to add a burger one now, or I want to add a sandwich one now because I already have the systems and team in place to do it. And they'll plug and play and just add, more and more locations. And then real quickly, the subsets are things like military is phenomenal for franchising, because they have tons of benefits where they're getting discounted franchise fees. They have access to veteran resources, and naturally their disposition and experience is so good for franchising because there's a playbook and rules to follow. But like any, business, there's going to be chaos and things you have to deviate from and adapt to. And military folks are wired to be able to handle that like structured chaos very well.
There's a will, there's a way. That's really what it comes down to, especially when it comes down to entrepreneurship, but franchising as well here. So then, of course, there's amazing resources out there to actually get started with franchising. And one of them, we have the CEO and founder, Franzy on. So let's talk about that. Pull up your homepage, find your perfect franchise with Franzy. And again, guys, this is not an ad. This is not a paid sponsorship. This is like truly like a great resource for you to have. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about Franzy and what you guys are like providing.
Yeah, so to me, think of Franzy as the Zillow for buying and selling franchise businesses. Before Zillow, what did people do? They were like looking at ads in like a newspaper, or they were having to find a broker. Now with Zillow at your fingertips, you can look at thousands of houses, filter by square foot, investment, or cost range, how good the school district is. Same thing for Franzy. You can pull up now at the tips of your fingers. You can see what businesses are available in my area, in my investment range. We use this very powerful AI recommendation engine to say, hey, Ryan, here's all the stuff that you've shared with us about yourself, your risk tolerance, your financial readiness, your operational experience, and your goals. We then feed that against 25,000 different franchise disclosure documents and 4,000 franchise brands and start to say, hey, Ryan, here's a top 5 or a top 10 list for you. And then it becomes kind of like Tinder style, where you can thumbs up, thumbs down, different businesses that you like. And the algorithm learns over time, okay, Ryan's looking for recurring revenue businesses that have a home services component in this investment range. And then we start serving those up and provide free coaching for you to talk to an existing franchisee to navigate this whole process and journey together. All of this is free for you to do. We make money from brands and from the service providers that we refer into individuals at each stage of their journey.
That's super, super good. I think you're kind of summing it up there, but tell us more about that Franzy fit score. I love that concept of like the Tinder swipe left, swipe right if it's a fit. Tell us more about that because I think it's super impactful for people to be able to kind of gamify on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 to 100. Like, hey, this will work for me. This won't work for me. Tell us more about that and how people can use it to find their ideal franchise.
Yeah, so the Franzy Fit Score is our proprietary language learning model and AI engine that we've built and trained on, again, 25,000 plus franchise disclosure documents, census data, Bureau of Labor Statistics data, SBA loan data, Google My Business listings and reviews data. And then what we do is we say, hey, Ryan, as you're coming through, the more information you tell us about yourself into those 4 buckets, again, risk tolerance, financial readiness, goals and interests, and operational experience, we use that to then start to pair and match you with the best fit possible. And the AI, it can do a better job than any human can. Like brokers, the issue and their limitation is they're typically only recommending 20 to 30 brands to you at a given time because that's all that have either paid to play in the background, which is a whole other issue that we haven't talked about yet. But there's misalignment with the brokers because they only make money from certain brands. So they'll only show you those brands. It'd be like a real estate agent only showing you, Ryan, the houses that they're also the listing agent on. You would never buy a house that way. And so our goal is to be completely objective, but also have the full inventory so that you're truly matching and seeing the best fit concepts for you.
Can you kind of highlight, like, I know you just gave that broker example, like 1 or 2 others as well, where, you could do the traditional route. You could go find a franchise on your own. But Franzy, I mean, you guys, 2 things that you guys kind of undercover that if you go in through a broker or the traditional route, like what are some other highlights that you guys cover for people? Because I think it is truly such a great resource. And so many more people are interested in, I have $100,000. How do I franchise? How do I get started with this? Tell us about like 2 more benefits that kind of uncover that from a traditional route.
Some of the other channels that people go through, it's like it's either a Google search where you're really kind of a lone ranger. There's not a lot, you might be going on these random rabbit holes. You might not be sure what you're looking at. It might be a brand that could be, covered with bankruptcy and litigation. And there's not a lot of, it's disclosed in the FTD, but it's buried in this 200-page legal document that's hard to navigate. And the other path is you might get reached out to by a business broker or a franchise broker. And at first, on the service level, it feels like, hey, this is a free resource. It's helpful to me. They're going to help me find and identify the right business. But again, some of the things that are underlying are how brokers get paid. They make a 60% commission on the franchise fee, massive, tons of incentive to potentially recommend the wrong brands if it means an outcome for them. Or if you've got a concept where the franchise fee is 60 grand and another concept where it's 30 grand, which one do you think they're going to try to corral you to, even though it might not be in your best interest? So not all brokers are bad. I don't want to sit here saying that either, but you have to stop and think, that healthy dose of skepticism again of what are these individuals' incentives and are we aligned? And so our goal with Franzy again is to have a flat success fee across all brands so that there isn't that, misaligned incentive. We get paid the same regardless of brand. And so that's something to keep in mind as you're working with different portals or brokers or other resources, just to think about incentive and where you're going to get the most value as you begin this journey.
If someone is stuck between that 9 to 5 and starting something, I mean, what advice would you tell them?
Yeah, I think if you're stuck in that 9 to 5, like go surround yourself with resources and people that have done it before. I mean, we have a podcast as well called How I Franchise This, where we're telling the story of a person who left Bank of America or left Tesla, and now runs 3 to 5 units of a franchise, and they've never been happier. There's also horror stories, and you should just go hear as many of those as you can, so that you feel educated. It feels much more relatable, accessible, and attainable. And so my feedback is start doing that homework, start doing the research, surround yourself with the kind of people that you want to be and that have met the goals or are working towards the goals that you want to work towards. It'd be like joining a run club. It's like join the group that you're the slowest person in because the rest are going to pull you up. It's no different here. I think when you're trying to buy a business is go surround yourself with people that are a year ahead of you, 5 years ahead of you, and just go learn. And these tools will come up. Franzy will get brought up. The right lending partner will get brought up. The right, resources to work with will get brought up. And before you know it, you'll be running a business.
Awesome. You're the best, Alex. Let's go to our Fan Blitz questions. And these are questions submitted from our community. Listeners, if you want to join in on a world-class conversation like this with a world-class entrepreneur, go to www.youtube.com/uplift and submit your questions there. But Alex, ready for our last 5 questions here?
Let's do it.
What's one business decision you made that felt totally crazy at the time, but paid off big?
Pivoting into franchising laundromats. We thought it was just going to be purely outsourced laundry, a marketplace, and eventually we owned, multiple vertical laundromats, physical laundromats, and never in a million years would I have thought that we would be running coin laundromats.
I like it. What's a franchise you would never own, no matter the return?
Ooh, that's a tough one. No matter the return. I would actually say, and hot take, Chick-fil-A. And the reason being is it is such a anti-franchise franchise. I love the brand, I love the chicken, I love everything about it. But you're basically buying yourself a job. Like it's 15 grand to get into because they want it accessible to everyone, but they take a 50% royalty. Most franchises for reference charge like 4 to 10% of revenue. They're taking like half because it's Chick-fil-A and they can do that because it's one of the best brands out there. But I'm too entrepreneurial to basically buy myself a job. And so for me, I was like, I don't really want to do that. I can go make a bunch of money doing corporate or Chick-fil-A. I'd rather go do this more fast and loose, raw entrepreneurship.
Wow, that is a tidbit. I will look at franchising Chick-fil-A's much differently now. That is good. What's the biggest misconception people have about running their own business?
Franchising especially is that they think it's going to be passive or semi-absentee. It's like, oh, because it's a franchise, it's just plug and play. I just put my investment in and I open the location and boom, I'm rich now and I got mailbox money. There is no shortcut, no matter what you're doing, franchise, offline, like you have to put in the reps, you got to put in the hour. I use the gym reference a lot or working out, analogy is you're not going to get fit and strong and jacked or ripped or healthy overnight. It is a steady marathon that you have to just show up every day, put in the hours, put in the effort, and in a year you'll be surprised by how far you make it, how many results you have. But it's a year of consistent day in and day out effort, not just, oh, I put my money in and now I start getting a check every month.
Going back to your college days here. So let's just say you get one billboard outside every college campus. What does it say?
Oh my gosh. Something along the lines of, you're already incredibly dirty. We'll help you stay clean. Something like that, where we promote the laundry business.
I like it. And then last one, if you lost everything tomorrow, what's the first business you'd start to get back on top?
The AI trend that's going on right now, it's akin to, think about like early 2000s or mid 2000s where people were helping like dental offices build websites or law firms. And they're like, oh, well, $500 a month retainer will manage your website. And it was done on like WordPress, like super easy to manage. People made a ton of money doing that. If I like started over from scratch and I needed to build up money, like in a bank to be able to go take bigger bets on other things, I would be using AI right now and going to every dental office, law firm, small business in my local community and saying, hey, I'll set up AI automations and workflows for you that will automate your customer calls and your outbound email reminders and text reminders. And I would tap into that group that might not be tech savvy like that and help them implement AI solutions for a $500 a month retainer. And you get 10 to 20 of those clients even, and you're already at boom, 10K a month in income.
I like it. Well, Alex, thank you so much for joining us today. Last question. Someone's like, holy smokes, this is awesome. I want to learn more about Alex. Where can they connect with you and learn more about you?
Yep. So I'm big on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. My handles are Alex from Franzy or Alex Smereczniak at my LinkedIn. And we're also doing something pretty interesting for anyone that's listening to this podcast. If you sign up on Franzy through this podcast, we will be giving you $5,000 towards opening your first business if you buy a franchise through Franzy.
Listeners, that was an awesome episode with Alex. Absolutely love talking more about Franzy, the marketplace there. So 3 quick takeaways for you. Number 1, think like a scrappy marketer, not a resource-rich founder. You got to be thinking about ways you can market your product. As he talked about at the beginning, at orientation, setting up his first laundry company. I absolutely love that takeaway. That was so good. Number 2, franchising can be a fast track if you match it to your lifestyle. So if you pick a franchise that matches your lifestyle and where you want to be, where you want to end up, the lifestyle that it gives you, you need to be thinking about that before you start franchising. Number 3, avoid biased brokers. If you are going to be franchising, you need to find a platform like Franzy that gets rid of all the broker fees for you. Or if you are going to go through a broker, make sure there are no fees. You want to match your best interest with someone that is going to do that for you. So great episode with Alex there. If you're enjoying this podcast, make sure to give us a like. Make sure to give us a review wherever you're listening today. It helps us get more amazing entrepreneurs like Alex on the show. And we'll see you next Monday. Alex, thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for being a guest today.
Yep. Thanks for having me, Ryan.